Chapter 6. Where and When.
Taylor's eyes snapped open. The sleep did not linger over him at all. He got out of bed and looked at the clock. He had only slept for about 3 hours, and yet he felt as if he had gotten a full night of sleep. He did not need any more sleep, but there was something he did need. He brewed a pot of coffee and watched the news, and after 2 cups of coffee and a half an hour of pointless rambling about how bad the world was, he shut off the TV. He picked up the phone and called Scott. "Hello?" came the sleepy voice of Tiffany. "Hey, Tiff. Sorry if I woke you. Is Scott around?" Taylor asked. Well, I think so. Hold on a sec," Tiffany replied. After a moment, Scott picked up the phone. "Hey, Tay, what's up?" Scott asked. "Not much, man. You got anything going today?" Taylor replied. "Yeah, I think I'm going to go out with Tiffany for the day. It's been rough on her the last few days," Scott replied. "Oh, of course. I should have figured that. Anyway, give me a call when you're around. I think I'm going to go scout out Thoraine's house today. Try to figure out the best way to do this," Taylor said, referring to the final stage of their conversion. "Sounds good. I'll give you a call tonight to get the skinny," Scott replied. They said goodbye, and Taylor hung up the phone and blew out a long sigh. Being alone had never really gotten to him before. However, now it was ebbing into his thoughts. He shrugged off the feeling best as he could. He finished the last cup of coffee and then got dressed. He emerged from his door, and the sun immediately made him grab for his new glasses that Thoraine had given him, once again silently thanking him for the gift. He walked out to his motorcycle, and as it seemed to enjoy doing, it did not start. He cursed the bike, and after about 10 minutes, he finally got it running. He sputtered out of the parking lot, and as he rode, the bike started to smooth out and run better. Taylor rode for about 20 minutes. He pulled up to a very nice but old home. Ivy went from the ground to the eaves of the roof. He walked up to the huge oak double doors. Taylor pulled the key from his pocket and opened the door. Taylor expected the house to be dust-covered and musty. It was actually quite the opposite. The house was clean and well taken care of. Taylor walked in and poked around. On a table was an envelope. On it, in very precise penmanship, was Taylor and Scott. Taylor picked up and opened the envelope. Inside was a letter from Thoraine. "Well, I take it you have found the house. You will have everything you need for when you are ready to take the final step. There is a staff that comes through once a week. They have been instructed not to come to the house for 2 weeks when you call them. The number is listed below. I know this is a scary and exciting time for both of you. Remember, I have complete faith in you. Feel free to use the house all you want. You only have to send the staff away for your conversion. However, you may use the house for anything you like. It makes a wonderful place to throw a party. Please use the resources I gave you, this house, the credit card I gave to you. Please realize that I only want to do this so you can focus on the things that matter. Again, I wish you luck, but I know that you do not need it. Thoraine F. Pohl." Taylor turned the note over in his hands and read it a second time, and then he put the note in his pocket and started to explore the house. Although it had a very old feeling, it had all the modern conveniences. The kitchen was fitted with new appliances, and the living room with a large LCD TV. And it was this way throughout the whole house. Down in the basement was the room that both Taylor and Scott would come to know very well. Taylor poked around for about a half an hour, and then he locked the door. He walked down the steps and looked back at the majestic house. He climbed on his bike and turned it over. It did not catch. Taylor flooded with anger. "That's fucking it," he said to himself. When he finally got the bike to start 20 minutes later, he hit the road with a very clear intention of where he was going. 10 minutes later, he pulled into the parking lot of a motorcycle dealership. He had been looking at the black cafe racer for a long time, but today he did not look, he bought it. He rode the new motorcycle home, and it responded beautifully. Taylor had a giant smile on his face the whole time. Although he took the very, very long way home, he still did not want to leave the bike now. He sat by the bike in the parking lot for about 30 minutes, admiring the lines of the machine. He finally went up to his apartment. His answering machine flashed that he had 2 messages. He tapped the playback button. "Taylor, it's Scott. We want to go out to dinner tonight. Call me when you get this," Scott said, and it clicked off. Taylor deleted the message, and he picked up the phone and dialed Scott's number. The phone rang, and Scott answered. "Hello? Hey, man, what's up?" Taylor asked. "Not much. How's the place?" Scott asked. "It's pretty damn amazing." "Hey, you used that credit card yet?" Taylor asked. "No. Why? Have you?" "Yeah, I did," Taylor replied. "What'd you get?" Scott asked. "Oh, well, you'll see soon enough." Scott prodded him for more, but Taylor gave no more information. They decided they would meet at Scott's apartment in about an hour. Taylor showered and got ready for the night. From the impression Taylor got over the phone, Scott wanted to make it an evening to remember. Taylor finished up and walked out to his bike. He now spent 5 minutes walking around and admiring it. He flipped his legs over the handlebars and turned the bike over. It started perfectly, and he rode to Scott's house. He parked next to Scott's motorcycle and walked to the door. Tiffany's little sister, Amy, opened the door. She smiled and hugged Taylor. She had come in from southern Utah, where she was attending college. "What are you doing here?" Taylor asked. "Well, hi to you too, buddy. What'd you expect? When my sister's boyfriend went missing, I came to support her," Amy replied, smiling. "Shit, I didn't mean it that way." "I'm very glad to see you," Taylor apologized and hugged her. "It's okay. I understand. Come in," she said, leading him into the house. Scott came out from the bedroom. He looked at Taylor, and they both smiled. "Hey, Taylor, how you doing?" Scott asked. "Good, and you?" Taylor returned. "Hey, is it all right if Amy rides on your piece of shit with you?" Scott asked. "No," Taylor said. "What?" Scott asked, confused. "If not, we're going to have to take the car." "Nah, I didn't bring my piece of shit," Taylor replied. "Well, what did you ride over then?" Scott asked. "My new bike," Taylor replied and smiled. "Oh, I want to see," Amy said. Scott raised an eyebrow, but he already knew which bike Taylor had bought. But that he'd actually bought it blew Scott away. Tiffany came out of the bedroom. They sat around and talked for a second, and then walked out in the parking lot. "Damn!" Amy said, looking at the motorcycle. "That thing makes me horny standing still," she blurted out. "Amy!" her sister scolded. "Well, it's true. Look at this thing," Amy replied with a sisterly roll of the eyes. They all took their spots on the bikes and rode to the restaurant. And as Theraint promised, they met a very loud, bold guide that instantly took a shine to the two. He offered to fly them to California, and by the end of the meal, both Tiffany and Amy thought Scott and Taylor had new jobs that paid much better than what they'd been doing before. 2 checks were written at the table for $5,000, which cashed the next day without issue. A signing bonus, as their new boss had put it. The pieces were in place. They had a great meal, and they went for a brisk ride up Immigration Canyon, into Parley's Canyon for the return trip back into the valley. Utah is amazing for riding motorcycles through, but that ride was one of their favorites. The ride starts out very technical, the tight turns surrounded by trees, and then you crest over the hill and can look down into the 2 canyons. Once getting into Parley's, the little 2-lane blacktop turns into Interstate 80, and the rest of the ride is much faster, sometimes a little too fast. Amy rarely had ridden, but being on the back with Taylor and the 3 glasses of wine at dinner had set her at ease, with the exception of I-80, which she would do again, but definitely had made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. When they pulled into Scott's parking lot, it was a little after 11:30. "That thing is so much fun," Amy said, pulling off the helmet. "I want to get one." Tiffany rolled her eyes. "Me too," said Scott, looking at the bike. Tiffany rolled her eyes again. They went inside and hung out for a while. They smoked a joint, which Amy and Tiffany were surprised, but all too happy to see. Taylor sat out on the back porch. Amy came out and plopped down next to him. "That was really great. Thanks for the ride," Amy said. "No problem. I can't believe tonight." Taylor questioned at the awesome series of events that it seemed Theraint had put into place. "Yeah, it was great. So, can I ask you something?" Amy said. "What's that?" Taylor asked. "You ever think about me and you?" Amy asked. "I have. I think we've spent too much time around each other to not at least have it run through our head here and there. It would be interesting, but I'm a little scared it would damage our friendship. I mean, we've been hanging together for eternity. I don't know if I dare even risking that changing, Taylor replied. Ah, the I just want to be friends speech, Amy said. Hey, Taylor said in a stern voice, it's not any speech. I've never lied to you. I love you with all my heart, and you know that. But you're like my cosmic sister, and I need you even more than I need a girl for a relationship. If you were my girlfriend, who would I go to talk about my girlfriend? Taylor smiled. Sorry, you're right. We are there for each other, and always will be, Amy replied. They sat and talked for a while longer. Taylor finally got up and got ready to leave. They said their good nights, and Taylor rode home and did some reading and then got some sleep. For 3 more days they just hung out and enjoyed the days, although every day their power grew and so did their longing. Taylor and Scott both knew exactly what they were craving: blood. Finally, Scott brought it up one day when him and Taylor were smoking out on the porch of his apartment, which is a nice spot overlooking a small duck pond. We need to do the conversion soon. I can't keep putting it off. I have to face it, Scott said. You're right. These last few days were such a good time I didn't want to bring it up, Taylor replied. I hear you, but we gotta do it. All right, when? Taylor inquired. 2 days. Who's first? Scott asked. You first, Taylor was going to explain, but Scott cut him off. Sounds good. I was hoping you'd say that. Taylor laughed, and although it was a bit more forced, Scott laughed as well. He was nervous, the former addict in him stirring. Taylor had a calming presence on him, but even now he had trouble containing his fear. Scott had fought a hard battle with cocaine when he was a teenager, and although in the end he had won, the battle had come close to taking everything from him. Even Taylor had thought he had lost Scott for a time. Taylor was nervous as well. The last few days were extremely tiring on him. He had learned quickly before, but now it was almost too fast for him. He thrived on it, and yet he started to apply the knowledge. Taylor worried that more power may not be good for him. Very faintly Scott heard Thoraine's voice. I have great faith in you. He decided it was the wind, yet he felt stronger. We can do this, Taylor said. I know, Scott replied.